Well, good morning. Everybody awake? We have a report out on a writing cell. Before I get into it, by a show of hands, has anybody ever had to create a document with more than one person? And have you ever had to email revisions back and forth and, no, I don't like that comment, and red lines and that sort of thing? This is a different way of approaching it, and I'll just turn it over to Austin.
So I'm not sure we've ever had a report out on a writing cell, so I'll let the team explain to you how it works and what it is. So if the team wants to come on up. Then after this report out, we have an update on Deckers VSA, and then an update on the meter inspection RIE that we had as well.
Hi, for all of you that don't know me yet, I'm Scott Nelson. I'm property management. I manage Deckers property along with all the Two Forks regions for Denver Water. Quite a few properties. We have about 47 rental cabins plus this fine complex, plus a lot of land, and so it's a pretty good sized property. What we decided to do was a continuous improvement event for the writing cell. We decided that being as Deckers water system never really had standard operating procedures, even though they were following standard operating procedures, we'd put them in writing and tap the current contractor's brain to get as much information as we could on these. Deckers, a little bit about Deckers. During the winter, we get 200 to 300 people a week visiting the Deckers complex. That's a pretty good thing. And in the summertime, there can be up to 3,000 people on a weekend just to go to Deckers complex. There's currently 6 businesses in there. There's a cafe, a liquor store, cabin rental space, a regular general store, and even an antiques furniture place. So y'all need to go to Deckers, go visit there, buy some stuff from those people to keep our tenants happy and in money so they can keep paying their rent to us. And if you show your Denver Water ID badge, you save 10%. So take your ID badge with you. You can save a little money while you're up there having fun fishing on the river. Wonderful fishing spot up there. As I said, my name is Scott Nelson. This is our team. This was up there today, and we're missing one person. This is Sarah, and then we have Scott, Nikki, Chance, and Renee. Of course, Fred was up there with us, helping us out, hitting us with the whip, making sure we did our job right. Austin was up there making sure that we didn't get off track, because that's his job. The one person that's missing is John Grill. He's our contractor up there. Extremely knowledgeable person, does a lot of work, but he had to stay up and do some more work up there for us. So that's a good thing.
Hello. So a special thanks. We wouldn't be able to do this without the help of Jose Ruiz, Terry Doolittle, Brad McClintock, Joel Zadedlik, Ted Nicholas, Bruce Dom, and anyone else we may have missed. So our reason for action, why are we needing to do this? Like Scott said, a lot of it was just sort of in somebody's head and not written down anywhere, and no standard SOPs and standard work. And since Deckers, the well, is considered by the state health department to be groundwater under direct influence of surface water, with our sanitary survey, we were required to have everything written down and documented. So that's why we had this lead event.
Thanks, Sarah. I'm just going to talk a little bit about the actual treatment process that's up there. The facility operates on groundwater under the direct influence of surface water. And then you can see in this picture that the wellhead is identified in the background with the green lid, and that well draws off of, draws water from a 12-foot deep well. That water is passed through a pre-filter. It's then run into a pressure tank, and then it goes through a series of 3 finishing filters. Then they add sodium hypochlorite to disinfect, and then it goes into a contact tank, and prior to the distribution, it goes through another pre-filter, and that system is capable of flowing at about 15 gallons per minute. The online monitors that you see in the background monitor turbidity, pH, chlorine, and temperature.
So we set up a writing cell for this RIE, and we had 3 teams with about 2 or 3 writers each. Normally you have a proofreader, an editor, a writer, and an expert. Well, we only had 1 expert, so we had to share them between 3 teams. So we'd have a couple people writing, and one would proofread and edit at the same time. And then from there, we'd go on and get more information from John when he needed it, and then keep writing SOPs. The takt time for this RIE is the available time over demand. We figured out there were 960 minutes we had to write 35 SOPs, so it averaged out to be about 28 minutes per SOP. Sometimes it took a little longer than that, but the group works really well together, and we got everything done. So,
Okay, so I want to talk about what we did. This first one here. So we created 35 SOPs for the Deckers Resort. So we mentioned earlier, if you've ever been part of a team writing some sort of formal document, it can be a little difficult. We were taking a lot of this from scratch and just put it together, extracted it from the mind of the operator down there, and put it into a document. So that's actually in less than a week, this team, 35 SOPs. Anyway, we created a SharePoint site for Deckers so we can have all this information in one place so that any Denver Water employee can access that. We created 10 different forms for treatment logs to log things like pH, chlorine, turbidity, that sort of thing. Public notification forms in the case of emergency or violation. We've got calibration records now, so we can have that recorded. The state likes to see calibration of our instruments. Also, we've got forms for storage tank inspections and so on. So safety is important, as you know, at Denver Water. That's a huge thing that we like to focus on. So the importance of an SOP, we can safely now do a lot of these standard operating procedures. Multiple people can now work on the system, whereas before the contract operator down there, he just had all of this in his brain. He's brilliant, he's great, he does a great job, but we need to be able to have somebody in case of emergency, or if he's not there, if we get somebody else, we need to be able to just go in and do the work properly. So some of the other things on there, confined space procedure, we were able to implement that. As you saw before, as Scott was talking about the treatment room, we just had a wooden ladder in kind of just a hole in the ground. It's not especially safe. It's not especially Denver Water's procedure for entering that space. So we were able to implement that. We were able to improve the vault access. We were about to mount a ladder. We got a different ladder, a better ladder, and we actually followed Denver Water procedure for confined space entry with that space.
Okay, what do we have left to do? We have a bit to do on the SOPs and standard work docs. The contents there, we just got to make it look pretty. And then we also need to make sure all of those are loaded completely into SharePoint and that everyone has access that needs it. Okay, our metrics. As you can see, we had 0 before. We came out quite ahead. We had 2 new participants, and I won't call them out. But we do have 17 Deckers SOPs, 18 standard works, and 7 improvements on safety. Okay, the insights, we all feel really good about what we've done this week. We know that what we did was necessary and needed to be done. John was so patient with us, and he had five of us yelling at him at the same time to answer questions, and he was very patient. We do appreciate that. And we all do appreciate and recognize the passion and the dedicated hard work of each other.
Thank you. Good job on that. I just have 2 questions. First, are you going to do something to actually cross-train so that you can have somebody who's skilled and capable of actually coming in and doing the stuff in case of emergency, so they've tested out the SOPs? And then second thing is, what's the process for making sure that they stay current over time? Because I know things change and the processes change and things like that.
Short answer, yes, Brian. We actually are creating a water quality or Deckers strike team for Deckers Resort. Our plan is to respond to emergency situations. So we have normal operations. So operating the treatment plant, having all the SOPs readily available for Denver Water employees and or proxies to our current contractor, John Grill. That was the reason why we actually created this. So yes, we are going to train the employees. We have water quality employees that we'd like to train, and we also will train the proxy for the contractor. Second, every year on an annual basis, we currently for Denver Water System, we review our SOPs and update them. We will continue doing the same thing for Deckers. Great question, thank you.
This event, it's a little different than a typical rapid improvement event where, perfect. So, right. So a writing cell is literally just getting a group of people together to sit down and hammer out the SOPs. We're not taking time to look at our current situation to see what we can improve on. We've had, and Fred will update us on the past events that we've just had, where we've had 4 or 5 events where we've actually looked at the process to take things, looked at the current state to update them, and we have made a ton of improvements up there, but this event in particular is really just about getting everything on paper and into an SOP. Anything else? All right, thank you guys. You guys did an awesome job. So to further answer your question, Fred will give us an update on Deckers, the overall VSA, and the events that we've had up there.
Okay, Deckers Resort Value Stream Assessment. Well, we actually created our core team. So we have Ted Nicholas, Renee Hutchinson, Scott. That's John Grill there, and Don Reyes. So we actually have our mission control wall at the Water Quality Laboratory in our collaboration meeting room. So if any of you are ever there and you'd like to look at our wall, feel free to take a peek. Myself and others, if you have any questions, just come and grab me out of my office. Reason for action, what we really needed to do was apply the continuous improvement concepts to Deckers. The number one reason for that is Deckers has its own PWSID, which is a potable water system identification number. And we also, they mentioned earlier that we have to be GWUDI compliant, groundwater under direct influence of surface water. So we had to change the treatment process and actually monitor the distribution system differently. So we wanted to apply the lean concepts so we can get this done in a short amount of time because we have a sanitary survey in 2017 with the State Health Department. So for those of you that did not attend our initial events, we had 2 success events. So we had to clean out some storage areas. If you look from left to right, we had stored, I think there was like 35 plus buckets of paint that had been stored in this room for over 3 decades. Clean that all out, and if you look at the after on the above photo, we actually created that room for chemical storage for the treatment process. You can see it's all nicely drywalled. We installed an electric heater in there to make sure that the chemicals don't freeze. Everything's labeled nicely. And we also 6S'd the office space. It has a name called the Oval Office for Deckers. Well, it's a Denver Water office, but it was an office / treatment area because we had 2 treatment plants at that time. We're down to 1. But you can see we cleaned that whole area out. We don't have updated photos, but we installed a wall to separate the Oval Office from a large storage tank and meters and such. And it turned out really nice. We put a drop ceiling in there, and we also put a new hot water tank in there. It turned out really nice. The photo to the right, the 2 photos to the right, that was an actual garage storage area. As you know, Denver Water, we hoard. We've been hoarding for decades, and all of the 6S events throughout, even in Denver system, looked pretty familiar. Same thing up in Deckers. We had tons of stuff just stored, piled to the edge of the garage door, the man door going in and out to gain access. Well, as you can see to the right, everything is labeled, everything is stored properly, and we also have a red tape area where we had John and some others say, no, we need to keep this. So we have an agreement. If you don't use that within 1 year, we're being kind, 1 year, it's gone. So anyway, they were really good and they were successful events. So the new treatment facility, earlier they had mentioned about a wood hatch and wood ladder. Well, if you look on the left, that's what the treatment plant looked like. It was underground, it was in a vault. and you have this wood access lid. The only way you can actually gain access is a hinged lid. You'd open it up and you'd use a 2x4 to hold it so you can gain access in and out. Well, as you know, that's not a good thing. So we made some major improvements as far as safety. We built a shed, and this shed actually is now on top of the vault. The plan is to move all of the equipment that you saw earlier, all of the treatment equipment, up top. And what that does is it eliminates the confined space entry issue, the daily entry issue. So open up the door, you walk in, everything's right there, it's accessible, and you don't have to go in and out of the vault to do your daily readings. So the reason for the figures there, having 2 people there to satisfy the confined space entry requirements, we're going to save $16,425 per year, where we spent $30,000 one time. And we've satisfied that, and we corrected a safety issue. Value stream assessment metrics. So you can see we have green lights. We have 3 areas where we're still working. So to answer your question, Brian, training Denver Water employees on operations, that's exactly on our completion plan. And we also cut operation costs by 10%. The example was the previous slide where we're eliminating having a confined space entry attendant there. And safety improvements. You can never stop making safety improvements, and the more that we look, the more we find. This is our benefit tracker chart, and I just want to talk about 2 items down below here. You can read the rest. 1 storage space per system. Before Denver Water was utilizing cabins and garage space to store. We were talking about hoarding. We cleaned all of those out. Everything has been removed, and we have that down to 3 storage areas. Started out at 11. And to comply with confined space entry requirements, none of these were actually identified or documented throughout the South Platte corridor. Well, we actually identified 16 confined space entry areas. So, and we actually wrote an SOP, standard operating procedure, to satisfy the needs for entering confined space. Completion going forward. Almost finished. We actually have system upgrades. So in 2018, we're going to budget to replace some of the tanks. The tanks have been in there for quite a long time. So tanks and standardizing pumps. Our goal is to standardize all the pumps because each treatment plant currently has a different pump. So we're going to follow continuous improvement concepts and standardize our pumps and equipment. Insights. So everybody's already talked about all these listed up here, but I do want to say something. It was mentioned earlier that the Denver Water way, the old way, was a person in a position would maybe 30 years, retires, has all this knowledge locked up here, and it was never captured. Well, 3 decades ago in the 80s, Denver Water started writing SOPs, creating standard work, and across the organization, now everybody's doing it, and it's an awesome way to do this because when those individuals leave taking that knowledge, you don't want to start over. And my insight is once we have everything documented, let's pick up where they left off. When they leave, pick it up and make improvements, continue to make improvements from this point forward. So this writing cell was extremely important. The team did an awesome job, and we pretty much wrote about 3 decades worth of SOPs if you look at it from that perspective. Any other questions? Awesome. Thank you for your time.
All right, so we have one more update for you. It's for Johnny Roybal in a meter inspection rework event that we had. So I will hand it over to him.
Alrighty, welcome. My name is Johnny Roybal. A few months ago, we had a RIE on meter inspections. Little background is every time we have a service line leak or a pipe job that needs a service line replaced, we have to go from the water main into the home on pipe jobs, and also before a Dura program took place, we had to go into the house on leaks as well. So that required us to set new meter pits, new meters, and new yokes. So that's something new for everybody. Our team consisted of Raylani Smith, Patrick Puckett, myself, Nick Ciatola, Keisha, Aria, and Peggy. Austin and Christy were also there. And Andy Brewer, who wasn't pictured. The reason for action was our expectations between the meter shop, meter inspectors, and our foreman were not on the same page. We all had different standards or different ways of thinking a meter should be set. We needed to coordinate better between the two groups to improve the process. Frustrations were getting pretty high, a lot of rework, a lot of callbacks for ourselves, meter inspectors, so it was a lot of rework. Matrix at our 60 days, quite haven't hit that. We're running across a lot of interference and different scenarios. So got the team back together and we're reworking on that. We added some additional resources to help us out. Some of the issues that we're having is contractors and new construction. It's all new to them, so they go off of a new grade and new ground level and all that stuff, where a lot of stuff that we deal with is existing landscape, existing homes and stuff like that. So we're just getting the group back together and then trying to figure that all out. We've tried a couple pilot programs. Myself and Keisha go out and then we try to do the meter inspections ourselves. That quite hasn't taken place. Just finding the time to do that with our schedules, but we're dedicated to working on that and getting that going again. So as I said before, we got the group back together. We're working on additional issues. We added some resources in there to hopefully get this all ironed out, and we have a new event coming up on March 20th. Work all that out. Thank you.
So like Johnny said, it's continuous improvement, right? So sometimes you have to call the group back together, add a few people to the group, and we're going to have another event to try to iron out some things from that just didn't get touched on from that first event. But that is all we have for you guys today. Thank you for coming out. We appreciate it.